Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So once again, I want to discuss male athletes dominating female categories in girls track and field. One of the most prominent cases is the Oregon State Championship, where a male athlete won the 200 meters and was crowned the women's state champion in that category. And we know that the girls didn't clap for this person, the parents booed. People are now making their feelings about this very clear, and that's good. And another state that's in the spotlight when it comes to trans athletes in girls track and field is Washington State, who also allows male athletes in female categories.
Over the weekend, a transgender East Valley High School student won the girls' 400-meter race in the state championship. The winner's sex was assigned male at birth. Some critics say it's not fair that she won first place. Spring high school sports is coming to a close. Just last weekend, Washington State students competed in the track and field state championship. This is video a spectator shared with us of the girls' 400-meter race, where a transgender student from East Valley High School won first place. At the podium, all of the athletes cheered for one another. But when the winner's name was called, the stadium went almost silent, while the other athletes put their hands behind their back.
And they must have been hurting and seething inside.
Beth Duran shared these videos that she took at the meet. She told me she went there to protest a transgender athlete competing in women's sports. Beth is against this because she calls it a biological advantage.
Sports is not about identity. It's about pure physical competition, and it should be fair. And we have girls' sports because boys' biology advantages them in many sports.
Do you agree with that?
Well, I think if that's what she said, I think that means that everybody would compete together. Boys and girls would be running races together.
Former Spokane firefighter Maeve Griffith says she transitioned 8 years ago. She doesn't claim to be an expert on this topic and doesn't know this student's story. But Maeve does believe everyone should be able to compete with their gender.
I don't know this person's story. I don't know how long they've been transitioning. I do know that I don't think anybody ever transitions from male to female in order to win medals.
The Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, or WIAA, hosts the Washington State Championship. They say its gender identity rules went into place 18 years ago. To their knowledge, this is the first instance of a transgender student athlete winning a state championship title.
So you saw there, the girls took a stand. There was no booing, to my knowledge, but they remained silent. So how's that? Some of you were saying, oh, how mean of you to boo. These are parents of the girls who weren't happy that their girls were competing against a male athlete, so they booed. But this time, the girls remained silent and didn't clap, hands behind their backs. A very elegant way to protest, to show their objection to having to compete against a male athlete. Now, of course, people are saying all the time on my videos, why do these girls compete? Why don't they walk away? You know, at the starting line, for example, why don't they just walk away and let the person compete alone? And I think that would be very effective. So who knows, maybe that will be their next way of protesting. But as for now, they are choosing to compete. They train hard. They want to participate. And that's the thing. The terms by which girls are allowed to participate involves a clause that says that they have to be willing to compete against male athletes. And those terms are absolutely ridiculous, completely unfair, and just wrong. No girl should have to compete in sports under those conditions, under those terms. That is a form of exclusion, because many will self-exclude and many will end up not qualifying for certain events because a male athlete took their place. And in sports that are more physical or more risky, when it comes to having contact with your opponents, girls are going to be excluded due to injury. Saying that a person should be allowed to compete based on their identity is complete insanity. It's not based on science. It's not based on fairness. It's not based on competition. It's simply based on bowing to gender ideology. So as more and more girls protest competing against a male athlete, as more and more of them say no, and show that they object to it, we're going to see more criticism targeted towards these young girls. They're going to be told that they're bigots. They're going to be told that they're mean, that they're bullying. That's what's happening. So now we have a transgender athlete speaking out and saying that girls who are involved in these competitions with male athletes need to show more respect to the male athlete. They need to show more sportsmanship to the male athlete. Yes, that's right. So this trans athlete is saying, give us respect and be nice. Transgender high school athlete Veronica Garcia, 16, was disappointed that fellow runners didn't cheer when she was awarded the gold medal during the state track and field championships last month. I guess maybe I expected sportsmanship because I was cheering the rest of them on when they were called. So I guess I expected to get that reciprocated. Garcia, formerly Antonio Brown, told spokesman, I didn't get that. So this was at a championship meet in Tacoma, Washington. There were jeers that were a bit more severe than usual, and one voice from the crowd even yelled, she's not a girl, as Garcia went to collect her medal. So yes, the crowd was silent and the other athletes would not acknowledge this person as they went to get the medal. Now, I think silence is absolutely genius. I think that is a great way to show your objection, because then you can't be accused of booing, or anything like that, or jeering at the person. Just silence. Because that says it all, really, ironically. Being silent, letting the person take their medal with no one reacting. Obviously, it does speak volumes and it sends a clear message. The person's going to defend themselves, that's to be expected. But there are a lot of adults who are saying the same thing. There were a lot of adults who were telling us that these young girls have to be respectful. These young girls have to go along with it and be nice, or they're bigots. Notice how activists calling these young girls all sorts of names don't care about being nice when it comes to defending gender ideology. They couldn't care less about being nice, about being respectful. That's why young girls don't speak out. That's why young girls don't object publicly, because they don't want the backlash. They don't want all the unkind messages they're going to receive, all the unkind comments they're going to receive, all the accusations. So the person said, I'm just a teenager. It's one thing if you want to advocate for whatever, but your message becomes deflated when you start insulting. As soon as you start harassing transgender people, then I think your message starts to fall apart. At the very least, give us respect, because I think the best thing anyone can do is, even if you don't understand why we're transgender, the very least is to be nice to us. Kindness goes a long way. So this person finished a whole second ahead of the girls, and the person who came second got a time of 56.75. Garcia's time was 55.75. And as usual, if you compare these winning times to the boys' categories, this person wouldn't finish in the top 10. So we had someone there saying nobody transitions just so they can compete, in the women's categories or whatever. What transitioning has even taken place? They don't need to transition. They simply need to identify as a woman under Oregon state law, under Washington state law, or whatever sporting bodies that decide these policies. They simply have to identify. So what you're doing is you're trying to justify putting girls in categories with boys, when we know that sports has categories for a very good reason, for fairness, for safety, and to maintain competitiveness. The fact that these athletes are finishing a second ahead of the girls, the fact that these athletes are winning by ridiculous margins is enough evidence. And it's very unkind to put girls in this position in the first place. It's very unkind to put them in a position that excludes them, because that's what's happening. And nobody cares about respect for the young girls when they speak out and object. There's a reason why female athletes are afraid to speak out, because of all the vitriol that's directed towards them when they do.
But she can't say anything. And if you're in a public school, at least in Oregon, you can't say anything or you will be ostracized, you will be put down, you will be shamed, and you just don't have a voice. People can't stand up and say anything, but I will. I'm going to say this is wrong on every level.
And actually, Leah Thomas's teammates who dealt with this every single day all year, when they expressed their discomfort to their administration and they sent an email, and I swear I have a screenshot of their response, their administration responded back with, if you feel uncomfortable seeing male genitalia, here's some counseling resources that you should seek. And that's the general consensus of what's happening around the country, which is why I felt it necessary to get in front of colleges and speak.
Trans rights are human rights! Trans rights are human rights! Yeah, you fucking transphobic bitch! I fucking see it! Trans rights
just me. I'm good, I'm trust me. You got me, I'm good.
Trans rights are human rights!
I'm coming, I'm good.
Before, it was just one-on-one conversations you would have with people, and you would say, hey, like, what do you think about this? Maybe this isn't fair. But once they had that talk with us, we stopped talking to each other about it, right?
Wow.
That conversation was so scary and so frightening that we were afraid to even speak amongst ourselves. And at that point, you couldn't really raise any concerns because you didn't know who you could trust.
Again, I was silenced for my dissenting viewpoint and felt my First Amendment rights were denied by my university. This is representative of a greater issue, the destruction of free speech. Today, any discussion maintaining the sanctity of women's spaces is labeled transphobic, bigoted, and hateful. What's bigoted and hateful is the discrimination against women and the efforts to erase women and our equal opportunities, dignity, and safe spaces. One might ask, why do I speak so passionately about issues that seem hypothetical, or some may perceive as only impacting a small number of women? This is not hypothetical. This is real. I know women who have lost roster spots and spots on the podium. I know of women with sexual trauma who are adversely impacted by having biological males in their locker room without their consent. I know this because I am one of these women.
So we're talking about kindness, but the last people who are considered in all of this are the girls. And like I've said before, this is nothing new. Cheaters get booed all the time. If you're going to cheat, and yes, I said cheat because some people had a problem with me saying that. That's exactly what's happening when you're male and you compete in a women's category. Just like if a teenager competed in a category with elementary school kids. So again, there's no transitioning. Under these policies, you just simply have to say you identify as whatever, and you're allowed to compete in that category. But had Garcia, who was born male, been running in the equivalent boys race, Garcia would have managed 16th place, with the slowest boy finishing at 53.12, more than 2.5 seconds clear of Garcia's time. I mean, that says it all. That says it all. So you can't tell me that there isn't an incentive to identify as a girl. That does happen too. Coaches have spoken out about this.
This is wrong on every level. These are not girls. They're boys saying they're a girl. They're playing a false sport, come back and play a girl sport and go back to playing a boy sport. All they have to do is change their paperwork at the district office. I'm not going to support it. I'm never going to lie to a kid.
You can't tell me that that doesn't go on, because these policies invite people who want to take advantage. It invites them to do so. I'm not saying that this is what this person is doing, this particular athlete, but that doesn't help the young girls who are put in this position unfairly. It's destroying women's sports. It's disrupting women's sports. And it's taking away their privacy in the locker room too. The locker room situation alone is enough reason not to allow this. Is enough reason to say that you must compete according to your biological sex. Girls need their own spaces free of males. And that's never going to change, no matter how far this identity thing goes. Girls are always going to need their own spaces. Public schools in Washington state specify that all students who participate in physical education and athletics are able to take part in the category that corresponds to their gender identity without the need to provide evidence of a medical transition. So don't tell me that there's some huge transitional process which the person has to go through. All they need to do is say they identify as a girl. That's it. So these young girls are not even competing against a male athlete who has suppressed his performance with hormones. That doesn't even take away the unfair advantage, as we know. Even if they've transitioned and been on hormones and puberty blockers, that still doesn't take away the unfair advantage. This is just a male athlete who competes with girls. That's what we're dealing with here. No matter how you want to spin it in your delusional way, that's what we're dealing with here. That is not fairness. That is not true competitiveness. And young girls deserve their own sports. They deserve their own categories, like everybody else. And Riley Gaines said, "Would you look at that? The thing that never happens, happened again." Veronica Garcia, Donovan Brown, just won the Washington State Championship in the girls' 400 meters in total dominance. In Washington and Oregon this past week, the fastest quote-unquote girl in each state has been a boy. And Sal Grover, who is currently in the legal battle to determine that a man is not a woman, said, "Give us respect and be nice while we steal your rights and opportunities." It's trans activism in a nutshell. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Like and subscribe. And God willing, I will see you in the next video.